I want to tell you a story that's in the news from the New York Post right now, and I have all the info going on behind me. Please forget all the crazy ads, but I wanted you to see this. This is really crazy. So, according to the Post, a 66-year-old man moved into a dead man's apartment in New York City in the West Village. The building owner is now suing this gentleman for $5.5 million. I really doubt he has it. There's a 4-gallon jug of gasoline sitting outside of his door. When the landlord went to court to get him removed, the judge ended up giving the squatter 2 more months, if you can believe that. 2 more months. If you own real estate or if you're thinking about buying, you need to understand why this happens and exactly how to make sure it does not happen to you. So let's get into the story, okay? This is a real case at a 400 Bleecker Street in New York City. A longtime tenant named John Graffenacker lived in a rent-controlled unit on the 5th floor for years. Unfortunately, he passed away back in the fall at the age of 84. Within a short time, a man named Melvin DeJesus moved in and took over his apartment. Now, DeJesus didn't just quietly occupy the space. According to the court filings, he threw all-night parties, screamed death threats at neighbors, banged on the walls hard enough to shake the adjacent units, I cannot imagine, and he even stored gasoline in the hallway and smashed the building's Ring doorbell. Now, smashing the Ring doorbell led to his arrest. Residents say they've had to sleep elsewhere multiple times because they're too scared to stay in their own homes. One tenant wrote in a court filing that the banging goes on until 5 a.m. almost every night of the week. I cannot imagine what these people have been through. This is just absolutely awful. The building owner, the Brodsky organization, which is not a mom and pop landlord, okay? This is a major New York real estate firm. They have filed a $5.5 million lawsuit and got a restraining order back in February. The restraining order is not stopping anything, however. And when they went back to court this month, expecting to be heard on an emergency motion, the judge adjourned the hearing until June because DeJesus showed up claiming he needed an ambulance. Because he did that, he got 2 more months. 2 more months. Oh, I can't imagine. I'll link the New York Post article in the description so you can read all the details, but here's what I want you to take away as a real estate investor, okay? This is really important. The real lesson here is not about New York City rent control, although that's its own disaster for sure. The real lesson is about what happens when a property isn't actively occupied and managed. That's really, really important to keep in mind. No matter where you're investing, okay? I'm in Savannah, we're talking about New York, but the concepts are the same. Most investors don't think about squatter's risk when they buy a property. Between tenants, mid-reservation, you inherit a property and you're figuring out what to do, or you just close and you're not quite ready to move. Whatever the reason, vacant properties are targets for squatters, for vandals, for theft, and for all kinds of liabilities. I have dealt with this myself in my portfolio. If you're an investor and you buy a property that's uninhabitable, which I have done over and over, you're going to have vacancy. You're going to have an empty unit for a while. And I've personally had squatters moved in, okay? It really does happen. But what happens and what people don't realize a lot of times in most states, Georgia included, which is where I live and invest, the moment someone establishes residency in your property, you are now in eviction territory. You have to evict. You have to follow the law. There's no just getting them out the easy way. You cannot just change the locks. You cannot remove their belongings. It does not matter how they broke in. It does not matter they were never on a lease. The legal process to remove them is the same process as removing a paying tenant, unfortunately. And depending on your jurisdiction, it can take months. Just like we're watching happen right now in New York. Like, it's just painful. And it's not just affecting the property owner. It's really affecting everyone that lives in the building, which is very sad. So let's talk numbers on because the numbers are really what matters when you're an investor. The Brodsky organization is a sophisticated operator, and they're still looking at a $5.5 million in legal exposure, okay? But you don't have to be a big firm to get hurt badly by this. Even as a single unit investor, the math is quite brutal. A squatter situation that drags on 6 months means lost rent, legal fees, potential property damage, there's always property damage, possible insurance complications, and all your carrying costs on a property you cannot touch. In a market like Savannah, where a well-run short-term rental can gross $40,000 to $80,000 a year, a 6 months vacancy plus legal fees could wipe out your entire profit for the year. That's a fact. We won't even get into the numbers on a long-term rental. And that's before you account for any physical damage to the unit. The financial hit is real, but so is the mental load. Investors who are stuck in a squatter situation will tell you the stress alone is debilitating. You bought an asset to build wealth. Instead, you're calling lawyers and showing up in court, and you're going to hearings that keep getting postponed. postponed. Like, it's brutal. Now here in Savannah, I've watched investors make that mistake repeatedly. They buy a property, they're between uses, maybe they're still deciding on their strategy, or maybe they're just not ready to rehab yet, and they just let it sit. And that's typically when things go wrong, okay? An occupied property is a protected property. It has eyes on it. It has activity. Squatters don't target occupied properties. Vandals typically don't target occupied properties either because they're scared. They don't want to be attacked. They definitely don't want to be shot. In Georgia, that's a very real possibility. Insurance companies also love occupied properties. And one thing to keep in mind is that if your property remains unoccupied for over 30 days, you can lose that insurance policy, okay? They have that language written in, and you do need to be aware of that. So it's just really important not to leave a property truly vacant, at least not for too long, okay? Here in Georgia, they haven't been there 30 days. They don't have residency, and it's important for you to be able to establish that if someone does move in. So that's really important. But if your rental strategy isn't locked in yet, you need to get it locked in fast, okay? That's the first thing. Carrying a vacant property while you figure out what to do with it is one of the most expensive decisions that you can make. Second thing is money. The fastest path from closing to cash flow is handing it off to a local pro, and that's typically what my team and I do. We do help people take down properties that need work all the time, and we will get contractors in there right away, and we're very quick at getting the property up and running and cash flowing, okay? If you're going to handle it yourself, it tends to take months because you don't have the team, you don't have the resources, maybe you work a full-time job, you're going to work on it on the side. So be aware that even though it will cost you more to use a pro, to use a GC, when you look at the back end of things that no one talks about, like squatters and vandals, they can pay for themselves very easily. I've seen a lot of owners want to handle the work themselves, and I totally get it because you can save money if you do the work yourself. I've told many people that. I just really want you to understand that sometimes the week turns into months, and if someone moves in, you're really in trouble. I actually had that situation myself. I bought a very large amount of properties all in the same area at the same time because I got a great deal, but I didn't have the cash to rehab them all at once. So it did take me time, and a squatter did move in, and the squatter did take dumps on my sheetrock. It was disgusting. I ended up having to tear out sheetrock that I wasn't planning to because of the squatter. Now, luckily, we were able to get him out, but man, that was just such a nightmare. So I just want you to know that, go into something with your numbers, have a plan, move very quickly, because slowness really can hurt the cash flow very significantly. This NYC case is going to get uglier before it gets better, unfortunately. And I do want you to be aware of things like that. Melvin DeJesus will eventually be removed, but it will cost this owner hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees to get there on top of everything else. I know you don't want to do that. So if you're investing in Savannah, or if you're interested in investing in Savannah, I'd love if you'd reach out. I work with Team 912. We're an all-investor real estate team. We do help our buyers take down properties. We help them run the numbers. We help them know what strategy they're going to use. And then as soon as we close, we'll usually close with contracts in hand with contractors or handyman or whatever it needs. So the day of closing or the day after closing, we typically start the work. As soon as the work is done, Sid was here, my property management company can step in. We get it up and running. We get a sign in the yard. We have people in there, and this can really reduce vacancy. It can increase your return on investment. Even though you're paying for a pro, it's important that a pro can pay for themselves, and speed is one of the ways that pros do that. I hope this has been helpful to you. I will just scroll through this article so you can see this is the gentleman in court. This is the gentleman, I'm assuming, outside of the courthouse. This is a photo of the building. I'm going to link to this in the show notes. It's just a very sad case. I have no doubt that this gentleman doesn't have anywhere to live, and I do feel for him. I'm sure there are services for that in New York City. I'm not familiar with what they are, but just be in mind that, I'm here to educate you as a landlord, as a property manager, and as an agent that works with investors. So just keep in mind that these things can happen. Ultimately, I want all of my buyers and people that I manage for and work with, I want them to do well and have a great property that's safe and free of squatters and vandals. And so time really is money. I hope this makes sense. If you're interested in working with Team 912, please reach out. We're at team912.com. If you go to the contact us page, fill out your information. That will get you on our buyers list, and we would love to talk to you about buying cash flowing real estate right here in Savannah. I can also help you find agents in other markets if you want someone that's a specialist like myself and my team. I wish you all the best. I hope this is helpful, and please subscribe to this channel. I'm always trying to put out high-level content for real estate investors, and I have a feeling you're going to be one of them. Have a great day. Cash flow Savannah, where the dreamers dwell. Get your hustle on, ring that wealth bell. From the